Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a first impressions video for you on a very requested knife. This is the Cold Steel 4MAX. I feel like I should say a bit of an apology for not getting to this sooner, but rather than a full apology, I'll offer you an explanation. The fact is, living in Canada, it's just a little bit of a rigmarole getting stuff quickly and easily, and so sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, I'm going to be late to the party on this stuff. Okay, so having said that, let's get this guy over here, and I'll bring it in with the promise that I will do my very best to cover all of the questions and share all the details that you guys have asked about. This is just a first impressions, but rest assured, there will be a number of videos created based on this knife and comparisons to this knife. Of course, not the least of which will be a full and detailed comparison between this and this. Okay, so all that stuff is coming, and any questions that you guys have asked, I will really do my best to try and speak to at some point in a video. Sorry about that. There's not an earthquake. I just banged into the tripod there. So great knife. I love the design. I love Andrew Demko as a designer, and the 8010 is one of my favorite cold steels. All right, and really one of my favorite knives of all time. I love the 8010. In fact, it's one of those knives, if I was going to get a custom knife, the 8010 would be on my very short list. Okay, so having gotten all that out, and the connection there is that the 4MAX is essentially a 4-inch blade, 4MAX 4-inch blade version of the 8010. Now, it's not exactly the same, and in Andrew Demko's own words, what happened when he tried to blow up the 8010 to make it bigger, it just didn't work. Some things had to be changed, and that resulted in the 4MAX. So kind of a cool little bit of background shared by the maker there. And now we have this budget version of this very cool knife. So we went from, an Andrew Demko custom to a Cold Steel high-end production to a Cold Steel budget production. Really awesome, and I love when that happens because it gives more and more people the opportunity to own a really great design, and this is a great design. Starting off, let me just give you the specs on this because it's big. When he was going to make an XL knife, he wasn't kidding. Okay, so 10 inches overall, 4 inches on the blade, hence the name 4MAX. Okay, 6-inch handle. So let's close this down and make this point sort of clear. Okay, this is a big knife, 6 inches long, 10 ounces, and it's going to be about 2 inches, in fact maybe more than 2 inches in width. So you're not carrying anything else in your knife pocket if you've got this guy in there, although I definitely think there are good reasons to have it with you. Now, for me, this represents an occasional carry type of knife. I spend a lot of my time visiting people, in the office, number one. So when you're in an office, you don't really need a knife this big. Two, I spend a lot of time visiting people and interacting with them. Now, not right now because, we're still under quarantine, or we're still under, I don't know, the various restrictions that have come from our current situation. Okay, this was recorded in June of 2020, so you guys all know what's going on. Okay, but normally that's the kind of work that I'm doing as a minister, and so I'm not going to be carrying this every single day with me, but I do always have a knife on me. But I carry this more than you would think. Not this particular one, but I've had this knife for years, and I've carried it a lot and used it quite a lot, and thoroughly enjoy it. Okay, so I guess the only thing I haven't covered here is grip area. So guess what? You could be a Sasquatch and be fine with this knife. It has over 4 inches of grip area, about 4¼ inches, plus a choil. So tons and tons of room for your hand here, right? My hand looks kind of like a child's hand holding this knife, and I take a size large glove. All right, but quite usable, quite good, and that's what I like about this. It's a big knife, but it's not so big that it becomes unruly. Getting to the features, okay, and again, the features here are essentially the same as the original, but very quickly, one significant change, of course, is going to be the blade. The blade here is AUS 10 steel, drop point, stone wash, flat grind. Quite a high flat grind, which is what makes this actually cut reasonably well, or at least the original version cuts reasonably well. All right, moving on here, thumb stud deployment, Triad lock, and that is a massive triad lock. Okay, really, really big. Notice that they have carried over that massive stop pin from the original, and overall, this is going to be built about as heavily as the original. Steel liners, Grivex handle, Grivex backspacer, Torx construction, movable clip, lanyard hole. I think we've pretty well covered everything that we care to cover on the materials. How this thing is put together. I will say this, compared to a lot of cold steel knives, this is still a pretty workable triad lock. It's not as nice as the 8010. I've said over and over again that the 8010 is the nicest implementation of the triad lock that I've ever seen. This is better than a lot of cold steels, but not as nice as that. All right, so that's how I would kind of describe the locking mechanism here. In terms of my overall thoughts about this, having kind of given you a rundown, you know how big it is, you know what it's made out of. So my overall thoughts here are, first of all, I love that there's a budget option of this. I love that, I'm a huge fan of this knife. And so I'm really, really glad that a lot of people who look at this one and go, dude, there's no way I can afford $350, can get this for less. Okay. And so, I hope you're able to pick one of these up. I hope you're able to have some fun with it. The other thing is, I think that lower price point makes it a more viable option for people who already have one regular folding knife. Okay. And the fact is, if someone messaged me and said, hey, Kevin, I want, one knife to EDC to have with me day in and day out all the time, everywhere I go, would I recommend the Formax? No, of course not. Okay. It's too big and it's too bulky for that. I want something a little more versatile, and this just isn't it. However, at a lower price point, it makes more sense to have this as a backup or as an occasional carry, or to put in your truck and just bring with you. I could see throwing this in my glove box and just, hey, if I decide to go for a hike or walk the dog in the woods or go look for, some wild edibles or whatever the case may be. We're kind of past the season of fiddleheads now, but there's probably still some morels out there that you could look for. Maybe we're almost past the time of like wild leeks as well, but perhaps, whatever I may be going out in the woods for. It'd be nice to have something a little more capable than, whatever smaller knife I may happen to have in my pocket that day. So I think there's lots of great uses for this in an occasional carry type of capacity. I definitely, yes, you're getting almost the strength and utility of a fixed blade in a folding knife, which we've talked about before, does have a lot of value. I really, really appreciate that. Okay. And the last thing I'll say is, so my overall impression, my initial impressions on it are, hey, great option. I like to see this in a budget option. I like it to be available for more people, and it makes it much more practical at this price point, because it's easier then to have this and a couple of other knives that are more suited to different situations. Okay, so that's my initial impressions. The last thing I'll say is this: there have been a lot of requests out there for videos discussing this and comparing it to the original, comparing it to other cold steels, the Recons and the Voyagers and all that kind of stuff. And so I will go out of my way to try and get some of those videos made. I guess while we got this out, we should throw this guy in as well. Another knife that I think is worth comparing, and I will go through this comparison too. Okay, so be looking for that, and any other suggestions you want to make, I'd be happy to hear them. Okay, there you go, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know if you have one of these, what you think of it. Let me know if you've got the original already, and what you think of that. Okay, in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to click the links on those channel sponsors. That does help me out a lot, and it helps you out too, because there's some discounts available with that. All right, there you go. We'll talk to you later.